Kate with New Beginnings Healing Ministry, and you are watching episode 7 of Fiat, the resounding yes that will transform your life. In this episode, I will be sharing a few of the messages that I've received from Our Lady over the years, and I will also be trying my best to stress the importance that we need to be awake and aware, and we need to arm ourselves with the truth, especially in these times and for what is to come. So if this is the first video that you're watching, you might want to go back to just a few of the episodes. I share stories on my healing in Medjugorje. I was healed of a food addiction in 2011. Yeah, 2011. My younger brother was tragically killed in 2009, and it wasn't long after that I started hearing from him both audibly and interiorly. And again, not long after that, I started hearing from Our Lady and occasionally Jesus, again, both audibly and interiorly. So all these experiences that I've been sharing with you, I have had them throughout my life, but for whatever reason, after my brother died, they really grew in frequency. And again, I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was because I was so sold on the fact that I was hearing from my brother, so it was possible that the other voices I had been hearing were truly from above. I don't know if that was to do with it, but anyway, so back in high school, I actually had a dream that I was in church, and it was during the homily, and the priest said at the end of it, he said, "Now there's a pamphlet in the back of church, and it's for one of you. I'm not sure who it is, but we need an author to help prove the existence of God. And you know who you are. So when you're leaving church, go ahead and pick that up. It'll be in the back of church." And I was in my dream. I was even like, that's me. I don't know how that's going to be me, but I know that's me. And I kind of slid down in my pew because I didn't want him to look at me and know that I was the one that was supposed to do it. And after church was over, I waited until I was the last person to leave because I wanted to give somebody else the opportunity to grab that pamphlet, even though deep down I knew it was for me. And as I left church, it was right there to the right, and I grabbed it and I looked at it, and I'm just thinking, oh, here we go. And I pushed the door open, and just the way the sunlight hits, at this church, when you open the door, it's just like blinding. And I woke up from my dream at that point, and I just thought, help prove the existence of God? Like, what stories do I have to share? And then life really started getting interesting, and that's the kind of stories that I'm sharing. So I'll let you know right now. So there's no guessing. I haven't gone to a bishop. I'm not approved, nothing like that. And in my opinion, I don't even want to waste a lot of time on the things I was given because they have come to fruition, many of them, and I think many of them are starting to. But there is enough information out there. There's enough apparitions and messages that are approved by the church that we need to focus on that, because what I'm getting is just confirmation that these messages are truly for our time. And over the years, they were enough to impact my life in such a way that I really woke up. And I have gone to spiritual directors over the years. Like I've said in recent videos, 2 very, very holy, traditional, wonderful shepherds, as Our Lady calls them, holy shepherds. And I have been given nothing but the go ahead. They just said there's nothing against doctrine here. I don't see any red flags. We need to just continue to go forward and see the fruits that come of this. So going from, that dream I had to a few other things, fast forward to 2009 when my brother was killed, and I started receiving these messages both from him and Our Lady. And again, Jesus, when it was time to build the grotto, I was told exactly what to do. I saw, quite a few miracles happen while building the grotto and thereafter. So it was enough to convince me that what I was getting truly was from above. And, when she said to me when I was in Montana, she said, that she had these messages that she wanted to relay to me, and I was to relay them to others. And she asked me if I would accept that. And I, without thinking, without hesitating, I said yes. And I didn't have anything to share, but things would continue to unfold, and I mean, here I am. So the different things that I have received, again, I don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on these, but I do think they're very important. And the dream I explained in a couple episodes ago, I had a dream after she told me that about these messages she would relay to me. I had a dream 3 nights in a row. There were fiery showers, so like meteors, something like that. And these 4 horses came from above, and there was a red one, a greenish one, a white one, and a very, very dark charcoal one. I couldn't tell exactly because it was very dark, but if I couldn't tell the color, I'm sure it was black. And some of these, again, because of how dark it was, I could tell that some of them had these very hideous alien-like creatures on them, and they were here to destroy. So I, crossed paths with someone. I was leading about 15 people, not a lot, and this girl I knew was leading hundreds, and she asked if I would help her, and I saw her as, leading with New Age, and I said, I'm sorry, I really can't do that. And at the time, I wasn't really sure what New Age was. So, for that, that was a little bizarre to me too. And again, I had this dream 3 nights in a row. And each night was the same. I was leading these people into a barn. And God was in this barn. And it was beautiful and peaceful and away from the destruction and the chaos. So, again, I never knew what that really meant. And then I started getting all of these messages, which I will share. And during these messages, I was very, very careful what I would read, what I would research, because I didn't want to cloud that line of communication, if you want to call it that. I went to adoration very often. I was trying to go to Mass as often as I could. And I was spending a lot of time in prayer and just discerning everything, even little things. And what I was being told, it's now that I've started to look into prophecies, because at one point she told me to start looking into different things. So I did. And the things I've been told are so similar to what are in these prophecies that I never knew existed. Okay. I didn't know about Our Lady of Fatima, but that is it. And so I started looking into all of this stuff, and I came across the 4 horsemen, and it's the death, plagues, famine, war, different things like that, basically these chastisements. And a few weeks ago I pulled up a video from Mark Mallet. He has Countdown to the Kingdom website. I highly recommend that website. He's wonderful. He has a great conversion story, and he just makes a lot of sense of everything that's going on. And he talks about the 4 horsemen and how we're going to start seeing those. So it makes me think back to the time that I had those 3 dreams. Here I am being told that I'm going to receive messages, and then it's followed up by 3 nights of this dream that really shook me and woke me up and made me open to receiving words from above. And like I said, I'm here now, and I never thought I would be doing this, and I never wanted to do this, but it doesn't matter. I've grown with the desire to do this, which tells me, this is God's will, that I spend my time trying to, awaken some people. And I'm sure most of you watching this, you're already awake. I don't know many people that would just click on this because they're, So anyways, the dreams that the messages that I received, the first one, she was always speaking of hope and faith and love and conversion and how important it is to convert now. And, she also spoke of God's will, living according to God's will, not just here and there, but every single day, all day long. And when we do that, like I said in the last video, when we live by faith and love and hope, these virtues, we will live supernaturally. And I was shown that, and I did it. and it works, you know? And she was always hopeful. And I was nervous to get these messages that were a little more serious. But she always presented them in such a loving, calmly manner, if that makes sense. So this first one that was pretty serious, she just said, "My daughter, I come to you today to speak of current events." And she went on to talk about, the sorrow that she feels for not only, the sins to her son, but the sins of the entire world and what's coming. And there's so many people that are going to be completely blindsided. And that brings her much sorrow. And she mentioned that, the time, I think it was 2016, she said, "I want you to enjoy these times, for it will be one of many blessings upon your family. And I call your family to gather in prayer weekly as a whole family." So we started doing that. And she said, "Please, again, enjoy these times, for what comes next will be much worse, more severe." She talked about chastisements being sent upon the earth. And she said, many, many people will perish and many souls will be lost for eternity. So at the time, I thought my faith was really unshakable. I did. I thought, we went through what we experienced with Dan, and we thought, why would we leave our faith now? We're never going to leave our faith, and we continued to grow, and it was all good. But what really struck me is in the message, she also said, first she said that, the times would be more severe. She said that the poor would be cast upon the streets, and the rich, and even the rich, would have very little unless they had their faith. And then she said, don't think for a split moment or split second that you are going to go unscathed from this, and that you are not in danger of losing your own faith, for it is a simple decision made in the midst of chaos. And when I thought about that, it was so profound, and it's so true. When we go through things, when life is good, we consider ourselves to be in good standing, and we have, a very strong faith. But the second something bad happens, you start questioning, do I really believe this? Do I really think, God has everything in control? And you kind of go through this time in the desert where you really question things, and hopefully you come across, into the other side with a stronger faith and a stronger conviction and all of that. And I realized that I'm not as safe as I thought. So I continued even more so to really dive into my faith and go to Mass as often as I could and continue and not be taken off guard. Don't consider myself safe, because like she said, no one is going to go unscathed, and we're all going to be tried and tested, and we need to be ready for that. So after that, I was leaving adoration one day, and as I was pushing the door open to leave church, it was just, "Come back." And I stood there. I remember vividly. It's like, Lord, I just spent an hour in there. I mean, I have to go home. I have to tend to my children. I don't want to pray anymore. And I know that sounds horrible, but that's how I was feeling. And it was just a very strong pull. And I said, okay, I'll go. So I turned around and I went back into church, and I stood in front of the statue in front of church. And I just said, okay, Lord, speak to me. At this point, I was ready for a message. I was ready for, an audible voice or something. But instead, it was a vision, which I had not had many of these at this point. And it was Our Lady of Grace. She had her arms out to her side, and she took one hand and she went across her body like this. And as she brought it by, it was like Niagara Falls off of her hand. And I understood it as, this is a period of grace. The sky was beautiful, purple, pink, blue clouds, just beautiful. And all of a sudden she picks up her other hand and starts going across this way. And as she brings up her hand, these clouds start to turn and kind of rumble, like I could feel it. And it was like a bad storm was coming. and it was turning red, and certain parts of the clouds were turning black, and it was scary. And I opened my eyes and I just thought, I don't want to see this. You know, it actually made me think of the little Fatima children who saw hell, and they were screaming, you know, don't show us this, don't show us this. Not to compare this to them, but I'm just saying it makes me think of them. And so I just said, I can't see this. And she said, I'm not finished yet. So I closed my eyes again, and it picked up right where it left off, and she brought her hand over. And as her hand went across her body, instead of these beautiful graces, it was these like ninja stars, Chinese stars. They were metal, and they were flying out to where, and it was so real that it was almost like going to hit me, and I feel like I moved. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And it was very clear, weapons of war. And in my mind, I would say ammo or war weapons or something like that, but not weapons of war. You know, when Our Lady speaks, it's always in a very profound, beautiful way, and not the way that I talk at all. So, you know, weapons of war. So I understood, okay, we're in a period of grace, and what is coming is much worse, more severe. And again, at the time, everything was perfect, you know, in the world. Like, the economy's great, people are happy, pretending they're happy. I mean, nothing about what we came from was normal. This is the new normal, still not normal, but we're going to get back to what is truly normal and good. So that's the positive thing from all this. But, you know, so I see this vision, and I just thought, okay, I need to start researching, because I don't know anything about the world. I really didn't at all. I knew the town I lived in. I knew how to get to a few different places, and that's it. China, I couldn't even point it out on a map. So, and I will say, my husband has a hard time listening to some of this, because he's like, I'll listen if you can tell me where China is on the map. And I'm like, well, then I'll just be quiet, because I don't know where it is. But these are the things that I get. So I've always been kind of leery of things coming from China. So when I think of this COVID, you know, and how this came and how they're calling it a weapon of war, I can't help but to think of that. So I kind of think, you know, is this the start? I have to wonder, you know. And another vision that I had, this was actually before the one I just explained. I saw when she was saying the poor would be cast upon the streets and the rich would have very little unless they had their faith. I saw very vividly children walking on the side of a street, and they were dressed in clothes that weren't, I mean, they looked like my kids actually, the clothes that they wear, just outside play clothes. They're always in play clothes. And so there was nothing cute or nice about these clothes. And they didn't even have shoes on. And their feet were dirty. So I understood it as, you know, it doesn't matter what I understood it as. I'll just stick to what I was shown. And so then I saw this, like, what I understood as it made me think of high school, where the buses, there's like a bus yard. So there were all these buses, and every single one of them had dust on them. They were tattered. I don't think I've ever used that word, but that's what they looked like, just broken down, not being used. You know, schools were completely empty, lights off, they just weren't being used. And, you know, again, like with everything going on, it makes me wonder, is that what we're seeing now? You know, so I told my husband, I said, I think schools are going to go out of business. And he said, well, yeah, that would make sense. You know, it's a dying system. It's been infiltrated and all this stuff. And I'm like, babe, it's not that bad, you know. And I started researching, and sure enough, the communist agenda has infiltrated our schools. And I do feel that there are still wonderful, wonderful teachers teaching, but they are being forced to spread this propaganda. And, you know, it's their livelihood or the orders, follow the orders. So I understand how we're in the state we're in, but I think parents need to be awake and aware of what's going on, especially in the public schools. You know, we homeschool. I never wanted to homeschool. I'll talk about that at some point. But every time I prayed, it was what God was asking me to do. And it's not easy. I don't consider myself a very good teacher when it comes to my children, because sometimes kids don't want to listen to their parents. So it is difficult. But now that I'm seeing all of this stuff coming out, I'm very thankful that I have the opportunity, and now I have the desire to do it. And I encourage any of you who are feeling this call to homeschool, do it. And if you're not feeling that call yet, I assure you, you will feel it soon. Sooner than later, I'm sure. So, I saw these few little visions. I've received these messages, and I started really trying to figure out what on earth was going on, a lot going wrong. And I just, there were messages where she said, when these things were going to happen, I was so nervous. I just said, are people going to die, like in my family? After losing Dan, you're just so, it's going to happen. We're all going to die. Life is very tragic in that sense. But I didn't want her to tell me that someone was going to die. And I just asked her, are we going to be okay? What do we need to do? And she said, again, there's going to be many pains, many sorrows. But if you turn to me through prayer and devotion and, continue to strengthen your relationship with Jesus, you will be protected. And she stressed how important it was to create these safe havens, or these safe harbors is what she called them. And, I think back, she told me in the beginning, that's how it all started. Create a special place for me and I will protect it for you. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I really encourage you to do the same, because, worst case, we don't make it through whatever's coming. It is horrible. I mean, we wouldn't be alive, but we get to go to what's next. And when you grow in your faith, that doesn't sound like a bad trade-off. So that's what I'm saying. With everything going on, no matter what it is, the turmoil, whether or not this world gets better, it doesn't matter. If you're growing in your faith, you're going to be able to make it through whatever, good or bad, with peace and with grace, and with a solid foundation and a knowing of what's next. And that's why we're here, to build that relationship with Jesus, so that we want to go to the next place. So as I started researching and trying to figure out what is going on, I started coming across some pretty powerful prophecies. And just for now, I'm only going to get into one, and it's Our Lady of Fatima. And it's funny, I tried to go downstairs. My husband, took my children out to a park this morning so I could do this. And I ended up trying to get stuff done on the printer, having stuff printed off so I could read this word for word. And of course, the printer is down and I can't get it to work. And my good friend that's helped me with this ministry for a couple years now, she just happened to drop by and she gave me a little magazine from a long time ago, but it's about Our Lady of Fatima. So, let's see here. Okay, so this was in 1917. She said, you have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wills to establish throughout the world the devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If people will do what I tell you, many souls will be saved and there will be peace. The war is going to end. And this was the First World War, if I'm remembering correctly. But if they do not stop offending God, another and worse war will break out in the reign of Pius XI. When you see a night illumined by an unknown light, know that that is a great sign that God gives you, that he is going to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, hunger, persecution of the church, and the Holy Father. To forestall this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays, which means basically going to Mass on the first Saturday of each month in reparation for sins. So then she said, if they heed my requests, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she shall spread her errors throughout the world, promoting wars and persecutions of the church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart shall triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, which will be converted, and some time of peace will be given to the world. And then it continued to go on a little bit more. But this is significant because, Russia, she clearly stated Russia needed to be consecrated to her Immaculate Heart. And that just means completely, devoted to Jesus through her. We need to be, consecrated. Or Russia, all of us really, but Russia was the main thing. And she said, if this is not done in time or correctly, Russia would spread its errors throughout the rest of the Western world, which the errors she's talking about is this communist agenda. Okay, so for many years, Catholics thought, oh, we're good. Russia was consecrated eventually, not when she asked for it to be. And, communism is gone, and it never left. It went underground, and it infiltrated into our schools, our entire society, every part of society it is infiltrated into, and, even into the highest levels of our church. And I think the very first video I meant, Awaken to the Signs of the Times, I talked about ex-Bishop McCarrick. And he is the one that's kind of in the limelight for this abuse scandal. And we're still waiting for the McCarrick report. And there have been many, many, many victims. And one victim in particular is speaking out. And I will put that interview on my channel too, because it's very important. And even this man, said we're going to have a very, very difficult time in our church and in our world within the next 1 to 4 years. But after that, Our Lady's Immaculate Heart will triumph, and we will have this era of peace. So we just need to get there, okay? So I can't tell you how important it was that, Our Lady, how much she was trying to stress the importance of growing in our faith, especially, as Catholics, because there is going to be a lot coming out on the church, and it's not good. And we need to be ready to hear that and know that we were warned. And this is not because of Jesus. It's not because of his church being not holy. It is because men are men, as in human beings, not just men, obviously women too. But men are men, and they will, they have their own best interest at heart. So there's a lot of evil going on right now. And that agenda, that communist agenda, infiltrated the church, and that is what we're seeing right now. And it's been happening over the last at least 100 years, and we're coming to a head on all of it right now. So that's just one apparition. And, just so you know, the war that she said would come, and it would be, before it would happen, there would be this illumination in the sky, illumined light. That happened. It was a very mysterious, I think, green, white light. I can't remember. But that happened, and then the Second World War started shortly after, and it was much worse. And it's just like, you got to think, okay, what's coming next? I mean, really. So that is not the only apparition. There's many. I will get into it on the next one. But I just wanted to give some of the messages that I've received and go over just this one to let you know that if you're still sleeping, it's time to wake up, and it's time to get right with the Lord and, confess your sins. Start going to Mass again if you're not, or church, whatever you are. Just start asking the Lord to lead you and protect you. Okay, so for your homework today, I encourage you to find some time that you can, go somewhere in your house and just sit and relax without distractions. I know it's hard, but do that. And there's a song called Awake My Soul, and it will be in the description of this video, the link. So just click on that, listen to this song, and ask the Lord to open your mind and heart to receiving these messages from Our Lady. And as always, pray and discern and respond. Thank you so much. Have a good day.